Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm here with Sandi, and we're going to talk all about ballooning. Hi, Sandi. How are you?
Hi, Roxanne. I'm good.
Good. So, as you know, we have some friends already in the chat. There's Sharon and Janine is here, and Arlene and Alice, and I think I saw Janice and Kathy. And if I'm missing you, I'm sorry because I got a lot of going on my screen. Here's Jill. She's there too. So we invited you, Sandi, because we're excited to learn about ballooning. And on the show, When Calls the Heart, they actually have a balloon and they go up in the air. And we wanted to learn about the history. And you said it was very romantic. So we want to hear all those stories. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
There's a lot. There's a lot to know about ballooning. We get a lot of questions about how we got involved in ballooning and what we do. So back in the 80s, I worked for a computer company, and I did computer programming while I was in college. And we were approached by Bloomsbury doing a balloon festival, and they wanted us to actually modernize it and use the computer to do the scoring and to do the registration for the balloonists. So I wrote the program to do that. I met with the balloon people and found out what all the requirements were. And I actually got to be part of the event. And as a thank you, they let me ride in one of the balloons during the festival. So that was my first experience. And I said, that's it. I'm hooked. I have to do this. I became friendly with all of the balloonists, and I ended up, my husband and I, at the time we weren't married yet, but we started crewing for the balloonists, and that was for Forbes, hot air balloon for Malcolm Forbes. And we crewed for him for years and got married, had kids, raised a family. My husband went on to his aviation career. So aside from being a balloon pilot, he's also an airline pilot. And he's away on trips all the time. So he's away right now. Otherwise, he'd be sitting next to me, joining in on the fun.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question? Could you tell us exactly what it means to be part of the crew or crewing, like you said? Can you explain what that entails?
Yeah, so we bought our first balloon about 11 years ago. And now we're on to our second balloon, which is larger. So my role in the company is we started our own little small business. And like I said, we both have other jobs.
Right.
I work for a computer company. He works for the airline. But on the weekends, we do ballooning. So because I do computers and programming, I made our website. And I field all of the emails and the phone calls, scheduling our flights. And then I'm the crew chief. So we have a crew typically there's 4 of us, my husband, myself, and then we have 2 of our crew people. And it's easiest with at least 4 people. We have to carry the basket and get everything set up. The basket weighs 450 pounds.
Oh my.
And there are actually 4 handles on 2 on each side. So you really need 4 people to carry it, put it in position and things. So what my job then is, we help inflate the balloon. I give our passengers their briefing, telling them all of the safety precautions they need to take. We have waivers that we have to sign that are required by our insurance company. And once we launch the balloon, we chase them. So we have our chase vehicle and our trailer. The trailer holds all of the equipment. It holds the balloon when it's not in the air. So we get into our truck and the trailer, and we follow as best that we can. So it's our goal to be there when they land. The pilots don't need us there, but it's always best to have us there. One of the things we do is we make sure that the landing site is welcoming. So if it's going to be in someone's front yard or backyard, we'll knock on the door and ask permission. 99.9% of the time, everyone is excited and happy that we're there. We've had a few cases, very few, where the people are not. So we fly on and find somewhere else to land.
Okay.
We have GPS tracking in the balloon, which makes it a lot easier. And that's something probably only within maybe the past 4 years we've been doing GPS. Prior to that, we just have our radios. So we have to try to keep a visual. Balloons fly with the wind. So the roads don't always go where the balloon is.
Right.
So my husband has to try to find somewhere that's accessible to a vehicle.
We have pictures that will show too that will explain some of the things that you're saying. How about becoming a pilot? Like what did that entail for your husband?
So because my husband is already a commercial airline pilot, he had already taken the written tests. So the FAA requires multiple written tests to become a private pilot and then a commercial pilot. The difference being a private pilot, you're flying for fun. Right. Commercial pilot, you're flying for hire. So you get paid, you can carry paying passengers, you can do tether rides. Anytime you're exchanging money, you have to be a commercial pilot. That requires a lot more of your time to gain hours and experience and then take the commercial test. And you take that with an actual FAA examiner. They ride along in the balloon with you. They give you an oral exam as well as they're watching every move that you make.
Wow. I guess so. I mean, geez, it's a vehicle and you're in the air, you know?
Yeah. A hot air balloon and even the gas balloons, the helium balloons, they're all registered aircraft with the FAA. Oh. So we have, you know how airplanes will have a tail number? You'll see that sometimes when they talk about the plane and, the tail number was this. Yes. Or hot air balloons also, and gas balloons, they are registered aircraft and they have an N number, it's called. So each one has its own number.
It is like, how long has that been? Like, how long has it been so like official? Past 100 years?
So the actual modern hot air balloon that you see today, and not much has changed with them, started at the end of like the 1950s.
Okay.
So that by the 1960s, they had it down to a science of, the basket really hasn't changed much over the centuries.
Oh, wow.
They started with the wicker baskets and they've kept the wicker baskets even today.
Oh, that's a cool fact to know.
Yeah.
You know what we could do? We could share some of the pictures, and then when we're done, if you're okay with that, we'll and bear with me, peoples out there. Bear with me when I'm sharing, because I have to go through 2 screens. Then we could get maybe into some of the history and the romance of it, because you said it's very romantic. All right, I'm going to hit share. All right. I know I always say the same thing. This is why I say to my students, I'm hitting share. All right, here we go. And our pictures should go off to the side. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. Go ahead, Sandi. Take it away. You can tell us what we're seeing here.
Okay. So our balloon is the one to the left. And we're at a festival and we're doing a balloon glow. So it's at night and we all end up inflating our balloons and we just glow them in the dark. They kind of look like nice, pretty light bulbs.
They're gorgeous. I was saying earlier when we were in the studio, I was saying that could be a postcard. I mean, or a picture on your wall. That's gorgeous. Yeah, I love it. Okay, is this your husband, the pilot?
This is my husband and I on one of our flights. I can't remember, sorry, who was with us taking the picture, but we had someone with us, a friend or a crew. not to fly when we have passengers because I'm busy chasing on the
Yeah.
ground,
Yes, you're
right,
the crew.
driving the truck and chasing. So this was one of the rare moments where I actually get up in the air, which I love. And my husband, again, he's the pilot. I wish I could become a pilot. I tried studying at one point years ago. It's extremely hard. There's a lot to know. So
I don't know. Because I'm a teacher, people and their brains and how they function and they work. I admire them. Like I have a friend who flies small planes, and to get your license is not an easy thing. Like I say, like you're a big brain, big thinker. But and I'm sure you are too. I'm not insulting you. But I think though, when you look at what's involved, you get intimidated a little bit and you kind of psych yourself out that you can't do it, or maybe because it's just, so involved.
yeah. So the thing about it, the balloons is there's no engine, there's no propeller.
Right.
So it was quite interesting to have my husband be saying like the differences. The difference is he's used to, okay, I'm going to give it some more throttle and I'm going to turn left or turn right. So balloons fly with the wind.
Yeah.
If the wind is going north, you're going north. If the wind decides to change direction, we've had the balloon launch, head out, and all of a sudden comes back to the same field where you left from. That happens very infrequently, but it does happen. Wind is known to change directions.
Well, I don't know. I think you have to have an adventurous spirit to like get up in there in the first place, right? And like you said, there is no engine. It's not like you can steer, and you are solely going on Mother Nature. It's like the explorers during the European exploration. They got on a ship and didn't know where they were going. I was saying to my students, you had a star and a compass. I couldn't go around the corner to the grocery store with the star and the compass. Do you know what I mean? Like you had to have some serious faith and an adventurous spirit. Now,
Right.
Sandi, is this the one? It's hard for us to see here. The second picture, it has like a bike attached to it.
Yes. So one of the things we love doing is we'll attend some local balloon festivals. There's 3 of them in our area in New Jersey. We're in Northwest New Jersey. So at one of the events every year, they do a bicycle balloon race. So we attach the bike to the basket of the balloon. We put the bicyclist inside the balloon, and it's a race. So all the balloons have a bike attached. We have to fly a certain distance, land, let the bicyclist out, and they race back to the festival, to the start of the festival. They're doing it to raise money. So there's always something involved, a charity that they're raising money for that year. And it's just really a lot of fun. We've gotten to meet a lot of different people, our bicyclists that each year you become friends with. And next year they're like, we want to fly with you again. So it's a lot of fun.
That's nice. We have really exceptional questions in the chat, and I see every one of them. I want you to know I'm just going along with the visuals, and then Sandi is going to get talk to us about the history and like maybe what we'll talk about what's going on in 1919 when they have their balloon. So we're going to go back and forth. We will address your questions. I think let's see, what was the other picture? This is just what it looks like. Now, I have a question. These are balloons that are, of course, they're in the air. How was that picture taken?
It was taken by another balloon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So one of the balloons, this was during a festival again in Warren County. And one of the balloons just happened to be further north of the other balloons. So they were able to get this shot.
I'm sorry, for reference reasons. This is New Jersey. I just wanted them to make sure that when you're making references. So do they ever worry about, planes, they can't get too close together. Do they ever worry about crashing?
We end up, we call it kissing, actually. And I have a bug that's flying around my
That's
myself.
cute. It's called
Um,
kissing. Aw.
yes. So that happens pretty regularly. When you saw them, the balloons in that first picture where we were glowing, when
Yes.
we set up to launch, we do the same thing. We set up in a row.
Okay.
We typically fly with a bunch of other balloons at the same time. In New Jersey, you have to launch from a licensed balloon port from the
Okay.
FAA. So you can't just set up your balloon in your backyard. You
Right.
can land wherever, but you can only launch from a licensed port. So
Okay.
we'll set up and we typically take off one at a time. So somebody launches and kind of flies off a little bit and then the next one. But depending on the wind and the currents, sometimes we end up all touching each other. That happened to us recently. I had a picture of that, but I have, about 10,000 pictures. So I kind of picked and choose. But
Okay.
the
These are
three of
good.
us were all in a cluster, all touching each other. So
Oh.
it's fine. It's safe. There's no problem with that. What you want to avoid is somebody coming up underneath you and
Oh.
like tipping the basket or something.
Okay.
So
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
we all
Yeah.
carry radios so we can talk to each other and to the
Okay.
crew. But the
So
balloons, whoever's in the basket can see who's underneath and they just quickly burn and get out of the way.
okay, so this isn't like some random balloon was coming by. You all know that you're together in the air at the same time.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Let's see. This is cool if you want to address this. Do you want to go through all the pictures and then do the history? Would you like to do it that way?
We can just go quickly through the pictures. So this
Okay.
was again at one of the festivals. We were crossing the Delaware River. My husband was close to the water, maybe about 5 to 10 feet off the water. We can touch the water. They can actually float on the water. They
Oh.
can float the basket on the water. But in this case, he dropped down to talk to the person in the boat, and there was a boat coming by.
Yeah. Now, on my end, when I looked at it, I'm moving the little cursor around. You could see that there was a boat there. And I don't know if they can, but they could definitely see, the water, the ripples in the water. Now that was not planned. That was just somebody coming along, right? Now,
Right.
I
Yes.
love
Yeah.
that.
Somebody came along.
That's just, I don't know. The whole thing of it is amazing because you are working with nature, and I don't know, to me stuff like that is just a fun experience. Like I said, an adventure. You don't know what to expect. So if I was out on the boat and I saw a balloonist coming by, I'd probably panic. But it obviously it's all good.
Mhm.
All right. Now this is the one with the tethering, right? I don't know if they could see, so I have my cursor going along it there, and I can
Right.
show them
Yeah.
the tethering.
Yeah. So we have 6 ropes that are actually attached all the way from the top of the balloon down to the
Mhm.
basket and then to the ground. And as the balloon rises and comes down, it slides along the ropes. So it keeps it stabilized from top to bottom. So we do tethers pretty regularly,
Mhm.
and we just carry passengers up about 40 feet or so. And, they get a nice view of the area. So it's
That's
a lot of fun. It gives them just a little a taste of what it's like.
that would probably be good for, like, baby steps for, like, someone like me who's, not the best in the air, get vertigo or whatnot, but would be excited to try it. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's really cool. Now, is this at a balloon festival?
No, this was actually at a private corporate
Oh,
event.
okay. And because it's not launching, it's okay to tether and do something like this in that in privately.
Yes.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. All right. I mean, actually, that's kind of cool. That would be cool for someone like a wish list, a bucket list, for their birthday or whatever. I love that. All right. And then, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, this is actually, we landed and we're packing up the balloon. So you can see we're squeezing the air out of it. We've landed at someone's house in their front yard,
Mm-hmm.
and gotten permission to land there. As a thank you, and this was something going back to the history we'll talk about, but as a
Okay.
thank you, we always carry bottles of champagne in the chase vehicle and we give them to our landowners. Um, and also something we give to our landowners is a postcard, and they mail the postcard in. They'll fill it out with their name and address. And at the end of the season, our balloon organization for New Jersey, they randomly draw cards and give out gifts to our landowners.
Oh, that's really nice. So that's
Yeah.
even an extension of the champagne. Oh, I like that. That's very nice. And then this is cool. I think this
So
is
this is our opposite. This is when we're getting ready to take off. We're actually we have a very, very big fan. You can see that red fan kind of on the left side of the screen. And the fan, it's very high powered. It blows cold air into the balloon. It makes it nice and big and round. And then my husband lights the burners and heats the air inside the balloon, and then it'll stand up pretty quickly. So you can see our crew. I'm on the right, and one of our other crew people, we're holding the mouth open of the balloon.
Yes.
And then as it rises, we just kind of make sure that the fabric stays away from the flame. And then we're pretty much ready to go.
So that's what makes it hot air, right?
Yeah. So so the burners are producing the flame, and they're attached to tanks holding liquid propane.
Okay. And you had said earlier that it is easier, you said, to fly in cooler weather. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. What happens is when the inside air on the balloon has to be obviously hotter than the outside air in order for the balloon to get lift and rise up into the air. So on a hot day, when it's 90 degrees outside, you have to heat the balloon inside that much hotter in order to get it to rise. It has to be about 200 degrees inside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's actually a temperature gauge at the top. It's called a pyrometer that measures the heat at the top of the balloon. So you don't want to get your balloon over temped. You don't want to get it too hot, or it degrades the fabric.
Oh, so we're going to hear more about the hydrogen balloon and the history of it. I'm going to stop sharing. I love the pictures. They're gorgeous. I will share them. I'll share them again on social media as well. So I'm just going to hit the stop sharing, and we'll be back over just us. And then just real quick, I noticed something, and I'm going to put this up. This is, she called a Team Luca Beth, and she says, "Is Sandi a Hardy, or how did you get in touch?" Why don't you tell them real quick, if you don't mind, what you told me earlier about
Roxanne had reached out to me on social media asking about doing a podcast with her. When we talked, she told me about the show. My mom is 97 and absolutely loves the Hallmark channel and watches it all the time. Whenever I stay with her, we watch Hallmark movies. So after I talked to Roxanne, and I didn't know about the show, I do now. I asked my mom, and she's like, "Of course I watched that show." So yes, my mom watches it, and now I'm in the middle of season 2. So I started watching. I love it, and I'm definitely hooked, and I want to get caught up so that I'm ready when season 9 comes out.
And sometimes you don't have to watch it alone. Who stops in and wants to watch it with you?
Oh, yes. My husband, he travels a lot. Sometimes he's gone for work 6 days a week, but when he is home, he definitely is enthralled by the show.
I love it. See,
I'm not leaving to go do this. I'm going to finish. I have to see what happens.
So that's fabulous. So yes, Sandi and her husband, we made Hardys out of them. I love it. I'm recruiting some more people. You're going to enjoy it. It changes. It's different. It's amazing. It just gets better and better. You'll cry your eyes out in certain things. You'll laugh really hard. I mean, it's just a feel-good show, and you get addicted. I've been watching since day one. And I come home, I drive in the car, I think about the scenes. I do have a life, but it's just it's a crazy passion.
Yeah.
And Janine Marie, she says to you, yay, welcome to the Hardy family, because that's what we're called, Hardys. All right, so why don't you dive in a little bit into the history? And if I'm not mistaken, from what I know, isn't it rooted in some, in France, some French history?
Yes. So way back in 1783, that was the beginning of the first hot air balloon. The Mongolier brothers, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but
It's okay.
they were from Lyon, France, and they invented the first hot air balloon. They started by burning straw and into like the fabric and getting the lift from that hot air, realizing that that was dangerous
Yes.
to burn straw. So that didn't usually go over well. So the actual hot air balloons kind of petered out for probably 100 years, 150 years, and they really didn't do much with the hot air balloon because someone else in the same year, 1783, used hydrogen. I want to say it was hydrogen, but it was a hydrogen balloon back then. And that's how really the gas ballooning got started. So the first hydrogen balloons were made out of silk fabric.
Yes.
Yeah. And all balloons, even back then and true today, whether it's a helium, hydrogen, or hot air, they all have the same basic components of, the fabric, which is called the envelope. At the top of the envelope is a vent. So even on the gas balloons and our hot air balloon, they have a vent so that you can let out gas or you can let out hot air, and that causes you to descend.
Okay. So let's oh, Janice put the correct spelling and name so everybody could see it.
Montgolfier, yeah.
Yes. So when you're up in the balloon, so let's say it is like, the 1700s, 1800s, 1990, and you're in 1990, 1919, and you're in the balloon, how would they be able to descend? I know before they would crash. How did they get it to like descend and not hurt themselves?
Well, there's two things that they would be able to do. They carry what's called ballast or
Okay.
weight. In the gas balloons, they carry sandbags.
Okay.
So in order to make the balloon rise, they drop off some of the sand,
Okay.
and they would carry like a scoop and they would just kind of throw the sand overboard.
Okay.
And because now it's lighter, it would go up.
Okay.
In order to come down, they would vent and let some of the gas out from the top.
Okay.
Like very small amounts at a time, and they would start descending. So they would do a balance of, I'm going to let sand out and go up and let the gas out and come down in order to get to a safe landing spot.
So when do you think it came? Okay, so it's very much European, very much rooted in France. When do you think it sort of came and became like something like here in the States or in Canada, in North America? Do you know?
Yes, it was
Okay.
actually about 10 years later. So 1793 was the very first flight in the United States. And the balloon launched, it was a gas balloon, a hydrogen balloon. It launched from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And it flew east and landed in Deptford, New Jersey.
Oh, that's like 30 minutes from me. How
Yeah,
cool is
yeah.
that?
So a few years ago, we were at our GBA, which is Greater Eastern Balloon Association.
Right.
We were in Philadelphia for our yearly, we do a once a year in the spring safety seminar. It's in that case, they turned it into a 3-day event. Normally it's a full day safety seminar, but we did a 3-day event. And they were actually going to recreate flying the gas balloon from Philadelphia and seeing where it went. They weren't sure where it was going to go.
Yeah.
So we got up each morning at 5 a.m.
Oh gosh.
Because balloons only fly at sunrise and sunset. And that's because the winds are calmest. During the day, you get thermals from the sun, and it heats the air currents and the ground. So you get these rising currents of hot air and cold air. So
Right.
you don't want to fly your balloon in that, because as the balloon flies, it's going to go up, down, along with these thermals. So we fly at sunrise, whatever sunrise is. Sometimes it's super early, sometimes it's at 7 a.m.
Yes, yes.
So we're there setting up the balloon in the dark. So as soon as the sun comes up, starts to come up, we'll take off. Or we fly 2 hours before sunset. And again, that changes all throughout the year.
Now, so if you were back, okay, so I'm thinking about this. So I'm thinking how technical it is. And of course it was, they were experimenting, and this is how they all came out, it all came about. Can't find my words, sorry. So would the average person, think about this back then. It can't be just the average person who says, oh, I'm just going to, take off flight. Wouldn't they have to have some kind of training or even, we're talking 1900, think about, you're in Coal Valley, because it is Coal Valley, and then it becomes Hope Valley, where Wencall's heart is, and someone's there. What type of a person do you think would be knowledgeable enough to get into the balloon and be the pilot?
I think back then, I'm not really sure. It was really inventors and dreamers and, someone with a very adventurous soul.
Okay.
I don't know what the requirements were prior to 1960. I don't know that there were many requirements or laws about it, or licenses or anything.
I love that it's rooted though in France. I mean, I love that, because that makes sense into the character, because he has a French Canadian, but a French background in general, and he's been all over the world, and they going with his family. So I'm sure along the way, this is why he says he knows what to do. Now, I remember you telling me a really cool story. So when they would land in the fields, remember you said out, and the farmers would come out, they would bring them the bottle of champagne. But what did the farmers or the landowners come out with? You were telling me they came out with something.
Yeah, so it was the farmers, the villagers, whoever, out in the countryside. They didn't know what these balloons were, and they were frightened by them. And they also didn't like necessarily that these balloons were landing in their crops. So they would come out with their pitchforks, and they would actually destroy the balloons. They would take their pitchforks and rip them to shreds and be very angry. So the balloonists decided to start bringing them a peace offering, gifts from the city, and they would bring champagne. That was something that the farmers or the villagers didn't even have. And it was something really for the rich, or, the people that lived in the city. They weren't accustomed to having that. So that was a very, very big treat for them. And that's something that stuck to this day. We carry bottles of champagne in our truck. When we do engagements or we do special flights, we carry champagne on board the balloon. So after we launch the balloon and they're floating peacefully along the countryside, my husband will pop open the bottle of champagne, and our passengers will get to indulge in their champagne.
Now, there's two fun things I know. One is a specific story, but you were saying that you do quite a few engagements.
We do a lot of engagements. Yeah. So the typical, our typical passengers, people that have it on their bucket list. It's something they've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. We get birthdays, anniversaries, and then our number one is the engagements, and we love the engagements. It's so romantic. It's just so much fun. And in every single one, it's the guy has called and told us he wants to do the engagement. So we have this sign with them. We say, it's best if we launch the balloon and get you up to altitude. And then they'll tell my husband, take our picture. Can you take our picture? And hands, now it's the cell phone. It used to be a camera. Yeah. And that's the sign where my husband will burn so that he gets the balloon hot and then he can give them like a good few minutes of silence. So
Oh.
that's the sign. Then he has the person can then propose, and they have a few minutes where there's no interruption of the burner.
Oh, so you have it all orchestrated, which is really, yeah, because the burner does make like a wind blowing hot, like a hard sound. It does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking to each other in the basket and the burner is going off, you have to stop talking for a moment
Okay.
and
Okay.
wait. It's very loud. So you have to wait. But
Now,
when there is no burner, it's just peaceful.
oh,
There's no noise. You're just floating along, um, and enjoying the sights.
I
It's
love
an
it.
amazing, amazing view.
Just to look out what's around you. I like that. You know what? If you're scoping out land, it's a great thing to do and check it out from above. Tell the story about the wedding that you did that you and how they cast it off. Like tell them what you were telling me.
Yeah. So a few years ago, we did. We were asked to inflate for a wedding. The people loved balloons, and they wanted a balloon to be part of the ceremony. So we set up the balloon behind, um, the arbor, so that as everyone was looking at them, they had the arbor, and then the balloon was behind them. Now the balloon is about 80 feet tall.
It
So
when it laid next to the house, I didn't even realize how big it was. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look, the basket, the people in the basket are teeny tiny, and the balloon is this huge. It
Yes.
is really a huge monster.
Yes.
They do have a mind of their own because they're very big.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing the wedding. Following the ceremony, the bride and groom get into the basket. We had it set to tether, and my husband ducked down so that he wasn't in the pictures or in the video.
Right,
But
right.
he was giving them instructions on burning lighting the
Yeah,
burner
what to do.
so that they could lift off and float and get some really good pictures.
So instead of driving off in the car that says just married, they floated off in the balloon.
Yeah, I mean, we were tethered because the
Yeah.
ceremony was in the evening, so
Okay.
we weren't going to do an actual flight. But we've had that request as well. People have wanted us to land at the wedding, but we're like,
Oh.
well, when we take off, we never know where we're going to go.
Right, right, right,
So,
right. That's why you still have the champagne in the truck.
right, right, yeah,
I love it. This has been so fascinating. Are we okay if we could take some questions now?
sure.
You
Or you
ready?
had, I think there were just a few more pictures. Was the engagement
Oh, I
picture?
didn't show the engagement? Oh, I thought I showed them all. Let's show real quick and then we'll do oh, I got rid of it. I would have to open it up. Oh, I'm sorry. So what did I miss? The one where he was proposing?
Yeah, the one
Oh,
engagement photo.
I will. Okay. I shut it off because it was my fault. I'll post it for them to see. I
Okay.
apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. It's me and my, technology here. All right. So, let's see. So there are a lot of amazing questions in here. These are all the hellos. I'm going through them. And then we'll start with, let's see, move down a little.
So I can see one. How do you get in and out of the basket? That was like the latest.
Oh, go ahead. You can ask that question.
Yeah. So you have to be able to climb a little bit, and I can tell you a really quick funny story about that. But our basket has a little cutout, like a little step in it, a hole cut out, so that you can step in there and then kind of put your leg over top of the side. You still have to do a little climbing. So
Like
we were
horse.
tethering once at a festival, and the hardest part is we land, we let the people out, we have to get the new people in before we can take off again, and it usually takes quite a bit of time to do that. So we had this one, she must have been in her 80s,
Oh,
and she was an Indian woman, so she had her dress on, the long dress, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
that's okay.
um,
I know what you're saying. I was sitting here in my mind thinking, what if you have like a wedding, get like the bride, or you have something long? So,
right, right.
okay.
So that's part of what I do as crew. and
Uh-huh.
also being female, we have people show up, especially for an engagement. They don't know they're going for a balloon ride. They have a beautiful dress on, or they have a short skirt on. So my
Oh.
job is to make sure that they remain modest when they're trying to climb in.
Oh.
I try to make sure that nothing is showing there. So
Yes.
this 80-year-old woman, I was thinking, oh, how is she going to get modestly into the basket climbing in?
Right.
And as I'm thinking that, she just boom right over the side.
Oh,
So I
she.
looked at her and I said, "Do you do yoga?" And she goes, "Every day. Every day I
Oh,
do yoga." I've had other people, younger people, have a lot of difficulty
like, and she
trying
just
to get in,
right in.
or not
Oh,
knowing how to get in, and she hopped in there as if she was like a squirrel. Just boom, she was in the basket.
cute. That's cute. We have, and I'm thinking this now because 1919, the girls, some of them are showing their ankles, like Fiona. We haven't met Fiona yet. They will show their ankles, but for the most part, I'm thinking, how did they get Erin in there? I wonder if we get to see her trying to climb into that with her skirts of her dress on. It's this is Janine Marie, and we've got lots of questions for you. How does a pilot navigate where she is going to land, and how accurate is their ability to target a landing? Which you kind of covered a little bit, but they were thinking more too about 1919.
Yeah, the same principle applied back then that it does today,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, the pilots always scoping out landing sites, and they're trying to do their descent. Now, modern day, we have a lot of equipment in the
Sure.
balloon that shows your altitude, your rate of
Mm-hmm.
ascent, your rate of descent. So they look at all of that. But they were basically just going down by letting out gas, or going up by throwing off sand and making
Okay.
themselves lighter.
So
So it was kind of this balancing act
yeah.
of coming down and doing a nice safe descent.
So it was like crude material, like, well, not material, machinery. Like I always say to my students, believe it or not, a little lever or lever, however you want to pronounce it, that's machinery. So they're just, they're still manually doing things, but throwing the sand off, or the whole, like you're saying, what was it again? How did they put the hydrogen in there and not burn up right away? I'm just thinking about that now. It just popped in my head. Sorry. Wasn't
Well,
it?
the hydrogen's a gas, so it wouldn't. It has nothing to do with fire.
Right,
Hopefully,
right.
you don't
Sure.
want it to do.
Right. I'm thinking of the burner thing you were saying. I'm
Oh,
not
with the
cut out for
propane, yeah, we have like liquid propane and then your
okay.
burners.
All right.
So
But
yeah, there's a whole system for actually filling the propane tanks, and there's the rope, the hoses that go
right.
from the tank to the burner, and
Okay.
yeah, there's a
So
lot.
their version of the helium would be the hydrogen,
The
I guess.
hydrogen, right, or the
Okay.
helium, yeah. But the
Um,
same is true today, as far as if you want to go up, you burn. If you want to come down, you vent.
okay. Burn and vent. I'm
Mhm.
writing it down just to learn. Burn and vent. I'm putting it down right now. All right. So it says, Sandi, how long does it take to prepare before launching?
So we start, I mean, starting when we're home. So it's not just we show up at the field. So there's a lot of preparation. My husband, he's also licensed in weather observation, being a pilot. He got his certificate in weather. So he's constantly watching the weather. We have what's called ruck winds, so you can see what the winds are doing at different altitudes. Um, and what direction and what speed. Of course, you want to see, are there any fronts coming in, or
Mm,
weather systems coming in, or thunderstorms developing. So there's a lot of planning and preparation at home before you actually get to the field. One other interesting fact: when we get to the field, we have something called a pie ball, and it's called a pilot balloon. It's a toy helium balloon. We have a helium tank, a small little helium tank in our trailer, and we let go a helium balloon to see what it does. Because
oh,
whatever it does, that's what the
like
big balloon is going to do.
there. Yeah.
Right. So is it going up slowly? Is it taking off? you know, and then we know, oh wow, it's windier than we thought it was.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a cool fact. I love that.
Yeah.
So
So I
Kathleen,
didn't really answer
oh,
the question. So
oh,
once we get to the field, and we start laying out, it's probably about 15 to 20 minutes from the time of laying out to actually inflating and taking off.
I don't know. Doesn't it take like 15 minutes for bodies to even get in there in the basket? I'm joking at that part. Like, like trying to climb in. So
Yeah. So
you do a lot in a short amount of time, I guess, because you know exactly what you're doing. You got it down to like a science. So you get it done.
yeah.
Kathy says, what exactly is a tether ride as opposed to a regular ride?
So with the tether ride, we have 3 vehicles that we tie the balloon off to, with those 6 ropes.
That's right. We
So,
saw the pictures.
yeah. So the
Okay.
tether, it's tied down. It's not a free flight. We just go up and down, and we take passengers for just that little ride up and down. With a free flight, there are no ropes. And once the balloon launches, you're off with the wind.
Oh gosh. Okay. That's right. Cause that's what we saw the picture. It keeps you stabilized. And that's when I was like, maybe someone like me who would be nervous, that would be a good stepping stone, get your feet wet kind of thing. This is Teresa. She says, like, silly question, but especially in the olden days, how did they prevent the balloon material not to catch fire? So that's the thing. So it's a gas. And the only reason why it catches fire is if there's a flame next to it, right?
Right. So the gas balloons, they have no source of ignition or fire near it.
Okay.
Like I said, in the very early days, they tried hot air balloons by burning straw. They would have to have something burning. And they quickly realized that that was very dangerous to have an open fire in the balloon.
Sure.
And there wasn't a very good way to control it. So they kind of bagged on hot air, and they went to just strictly gas.
Until they could, figure it out and master the sciences. But it's so cool. I mean, I've like, to think about it. If you think about it, it was in the 1700s people were doing this, and we still do that to today. And I love that you said that the basket is basically the same, correct?
Yeah, so way back when, they decided that wicker was a great material because it's lightweight, but it's very durable, and it also has a lot of flexibility to it.
Okay.
So when we land, we try to be there. We try to give you, sometimes my husband's floating 5 feet above the ground, and he just waits till we get there, and then we kind of pull them down to the ground. Other times, if you have a windy day, you might have a harder landing. So you might kind of hit the ground, but that wicker absorbs the shock of the landing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's not like such a crash landing type. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
I don't like the word crash.
Okay, won't use it. I'm sorry. No, I know there's certain words.
Yeah, but if you have a little bit of a harder landing, the wicker takes the shock of that. It's like little shock absorbers, with all of those wicker parts or something. So it absorbs the shock. Plus, they decided in modern day, why change something that works? And it's also the beauty of it, the nostalgia, the beauty of that, the wicker.
Is there a certain size? Like, is there a science to like the ratio of the size of the basket to the actual balloon itself, or?
Yes. Yep. Balloons can be pretty small, to very, very large. Our balloon can carry 4 passengers plus the pilot. So there's 5 people. That's what it's rated to. And it's 90,000 cubic feet. So you can think of it as a basketball being 1 cubic feet. Okay. So it's like having 90,000 basketballs.
Oh.
That's how much air.
Okay. I'm just thinking, it's just the whole, like in our brains, like when we saw it put in perspective, when we saw the whole thing laying down in front of that house, then you realize the balloon itself, how large it is. So now you're in your little basket. It is kind of intimate though, is it, in that basket?
If you have 4 passengers and my husband, you're basically shoulder to shoulder. You become
Mm.
friends.
Yes, yes, you
Very, very
do. I
quickly.
like
Yeah.
that. um, Christina says, how long can you stay up in the air and how long does it get, I guess, to get from place to place, which you kind of answered, but is there like, is there a certain amount of time that you
Yeah,
are?
it's basically you're limited by the amount of propane on board.
Okay.
So each balloon system is different, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our balloon is a 90,000 cubic feet. Some of the bigger ride balloons, you've seen them on the news and such, they could carry like 20
Oh,
passengers or more. So they're about 4 times the size of our balloon. But 90 is a typical size for just someone that owns a balloon and is doing a ride, business.
okay. So you go through all that. So it's not like it's going to be 15 minutes. You're up there for a while, right?
Yeah. The typical ride is about an hour. And
Okay.
and that means at an hour, between 45 minutes to an hour, we're looking for somewhere to land. Um, if you fly for an hour and a half or 2 hours, you will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough fuel on board, but you definitely don't want to get to the point where you're an hour and a half to 2 hours in, and now you're limited
Mm.
by your landing spots.
Oh, that's true, right? Like that you could that it's all about the landing in my brain. Like, how do we get back down? I think that's the thing for me that makes me nervous. But the actual idea of being up in the air, how does it feel? Does it feel like you're flying? Is it swift or does it depend upon the speed of the winds?
So, but because you're going with the wind, you don't
Okay.
feel the wind.
Oh.
So you don't have a sense of height. I don't personally like heights. I
Mm-hmm.
can't get up on a ladder. I get shaky. I get nervous, but I can do the balloon. I love the balloon. It's a completely different feeling. It's almost like you're in a picture, like you're not in reality. It's like you've stepped out of reality into this
Magical.
beautiful,
Yeah.
right, magical, amazing, like you're part of the sky.
I love it.
um
So that's romantic.
yes, and you definitely feel once you leave the ground, you feel like you don't weigh anything, you feel like you're floating.
Oh, so you are floating on there. I would love it. That's just, I can't wait to see it in action. So of course, and I don't know if everyone saw my video that I did, but I did ask, and it's not a real balloon in the show. It's all visual effects. But if we know the show creators, and they are very specific, they do their research. So I'm sure it's going to be really cool. We're going to feel like it's happening. And I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it, but I remember they had this big giant ladder. The ladder could have been there for anything, but it was really tall. And two of the cast members, the girls, were up on it posing. And I didn't even think to know what the balloon was for at the time. So I'm wondering if that was part of what they had to use in order to do the visual effects. That's just me surmising that. But of course, I guess for safety reasons, they couldn't have a balloon, you know what I mean, and put actors in it. So not like I'm like, not like they had time to become a real pilot. It says, this is Arlene. Do you know the world record flight of a hot air balloon?
I don't off the top of my head. See, that's something that my husband would know.
That's okay.
He's a big numbers guy, and he's a big world record information. Just a couple weeks ago, there was a guy going for a hot air balloon distance jump. They call it a long jump. And he
Oh,
took off from North Dakota, I believe, South Dakota,
okay.
North Dakota area. And he was trying to make the distance. He ended up having a technical issue and ended up not having enough fuel. So he landed early, I believe, in Iowa. He was going to try to get to Tennessee and break the record.
Okay.
But he'll be trying again.
All right.
There's other balloons, and there have been documentaries about them crossing the Atlantic and then crossing the Pacific.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So this is I would have to research that. I mean, and look more into it because that's like super fascinating. And I mean, we have the internet at our fingertips for things like that. So that's just fun. The whole thing is just so fascinating, romantic, like everybody's going cuckoo over it. And this is a question that you cannot answer, Sandi, but Sharon says, do we know what inspired When Calls the Heart to bring in a hot air balloon scene other than something fun and new for Elizabeth and Lucas to experience? Um, Not unless Sharon, I don't know, and not unless somebody from the show is here in the chat and wants to share, but they won't want to share because that gives away the storyline. But I'm thinking I think it goes along with the whole idea of industrialization because they're focusing on how the world is changing at that time. And although in the 1700s, balloons were being launched, I'm wondering if maybe it has something to do with the whole hydrogen part of it. And I don't know, other than it being like one amazing romantic thing. And maybe if the students in the show are learning about something along those lines and then they bring it in. But again, those are all just like speculation. We don't know. We answered the basket question and some other questions, but there's some new comments. Just they're saying to you just some nice things. There's something about this one. There is a behind the scenes that Peter DeLuise has that shows the crane that they used to lift the basket. Yes, I do remember seeing that. Someone was asking, what's the speed? Like, how fast does it go? Did you cover that?
Yeah, we go with the wind. We try to fly in wind that's about 5 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Anything above like 8 miles per hour, you're starting to go too fast, and to try to land and do it safely becomes an issue. But you also don't want to fly in winds that are 0 miles an hour because you're not going anywhere.
That's true. You're just
Yeah,
like hanging around.
yeah,
I thought it would have been faster, but I mean, now it makes sense because now that's why it is so romantic and and you said you feel like you're in your own little picture, own world. It's soothing, um calming instead of like heart racing kind of thing. I like that. That's just me,
yeah.
just giving my opinion. One more question and then I'll show you like I'll post up some of the nice compliments. It says, how high has your balloon gone and what is the comfortable height?
So one thing my husband loves to do, he likes to fly at all different altitudes with people. So
Mm-hmm.
he likes to skim along the ground. He likes to fly above the treetops. He'll actually fly. One of the tricks is we'll fly actually through the treetops. People can reach
Oh,
out and grab leaves as a little souvenir.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah.
Eh. Because
So
you're going, I'm sorry, you're going slow enough that you can do that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
right, and then he also likes going high, like anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 feet is not uncommon.
Oh, wow.
We've gone up to maybe even a little above 5,000 feet, but at that point, then everything is so teeny tiny on the ground that it doesn't make it fun anymore.
Yeah.
It's more fun to be closer to the ground. We also have there's rules that the pilots have to follow. They
Hmm.
have to be, it's like 500 feet, I believe, above a residential area.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it depends. If we're near livestock, any horses, cows, we have a special burner. It's called the cow burner. That's what we call it. I mean, I call it as a
Yeah,
layman.
yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
probably has a technical name. I don't know what the technical name is, but it's a quieter burner
Hmm.
than the normal burners. But it still does the same job of giving heat to the balloon. Um, so what
So,
was I
no,
lost track of what the question.
no. You were very, very detailed. It was a good answer. You were explaining that there isn't one specific height, and that there's all different preferences or different experiences. So,
Right. And also, I think I was saying something about this before, that at different altitudes, the wind might be different.
That's
So if
true.
you go up to 1,000 feet, the wind might be a little more to the right. If you go to 2,000 feet, it might be a little more to the left. What we all do as balloonists, they all have radios where they talk to each other, and they also can obviously see each other.
Yes.
So somebody will test out altitude. Somebody will go up high and see what's happening, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm getting a right up at 3,000 feet." So if they need a right to get to a better landing spot, they'll all climb and go to the right. It's the same thing, going down. They get in different currents.
So it's like a team effort. That's nice.
Yeah. It really has become our family, because we all help each other. We all spend a lot of time together. We do training together. If someone's short of a crew member, we'll go help them set up or take down. Then we all come back and we all have our refreshments. We all make different food. So we all know, like, one of our ladies, she has a garden and she loves making homemade salsas.
Oh, yum.
So that's like her specialty. I make different desserts and things. So we all come and we bring a lot of food and a lot of drink, different beverages, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. And we just all share our food and
see, you're a hearty all along. You were a hearty. You just didn't know it. This is Team Luca Beth. She said, this is super informative. Thanks for coming on, Sandi. And Kathy says, thanks for spending the time to give us such interesting and informative information that gives us some insight to a form of travel not known. That's true by many people these days. And we've got wows. Christina's wowed. I'm just amazed because I'm afraid of heights, but this I might have to try now. Like you just shared, you said you have trouble, but you love it. So, I mean, yeah. Jill says this is an amazing interview. They're loving you, Sandi.
Well, thank you for having me, Roxanne. It's been fun.
Sure. I know. I enjoyed it. I love learning about new things. I felt like I'm over here. Oh, wow. Oh, I had not that much to say, but listen, I really meant the oh, wows and ahas because I'm like sucking it all up and taking it all in. Before we say goodnight, Sandi, don't leave because we'll exit the studio together. But before I say goodnight to everyone, I just want to show you this last one. Sounds like a great community of balloonists. That's true, Arlene. Don't forget tomorrow I got like January is jam-packed with stuff. So tomorrow is Monday, correct? Yes. And I will have on Matthew James Dowden. He's amazing. If you have not seen the Hallmark movie North to Home, see if you can watch and see where it'll come back on. The story is gorgeous. It has a bit of surprise. He was one of the main characters in the story. He's also a magician, a writer, and many of us have found out that he will have he's one of the new characters in season 9. He plays Arthur Gilchrist. So he'll be on tomorrow. And then Tuesday, my Hallmark watchers, Butlers in Love is coming on next weekend. And I'm like, butlers, like balloonists. Now we've got butlers. We never hear stories about butlering. I actually contacted a real butler, and the leading lady, her name is Stacy Farber. You'll know her from Virgin River. She was on there too, and she will be on talking about her movie. So we've got 2 fun days coming up, or at least I think they're fun. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining.